This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue, and back in the chair again, the TSO's marketing director, Felicia Canny. Welcome to everybody today.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Now, we are taking as a point of departure for this episode the Mozart Effect, and that's something that a lot of people have heard of. The idea being that you listen to Mozart, you feel better, you do better on test scores, that kind of thing. It sort of helps your thought process. It all goes back to a study that happened, I don't know exactly.
Early 1990s.
Early 1990s.
That sounds right.
I want to preface this entire discussion with the fact that none of us are, professionals. Nobody should take anything that we say as scientifically.
Stop listening right now.
Scientific.
Actually, it was
based.
not the mid-90s. No.
It's all anecdotal. Everything we say today is all anecdotal evidence, so we take no responsibility whatsoever.
Wow,
Every
nice
time
disclaimer.
we say Mozart Effects, it's in air quotes. So.
Air quotes.
The Mozart Effect.
I mean, Mozart had many effects, let's be honest.
Anyway, Felicia, you're the one that has had the most recently had a child, right?
Yes.
So you have
By
a newborn
2
baby
months.
at home.
Yeah.
And why don't you give us a little primer on Mozart Effect, what you know of it?
Well, I know the study was done 1993, but it wasn't. When I think of Mozart Effect, I think of babies. But it was a study done on college students, and they had different groups, and the one group listened to the Mozart Piano Sonata K448, and another group listened to like a relaxation tape or something like that.
Yeah.
And the third group listened to silence, nothing. And following like a 10-minute listening exercise, they had to do some, like, I guess an equivalent to like
reasoning,
some sort of reasoning test. And the group that listened to the Mozart Piano Sonata marginally performed better.
Yeah.
And I think that was my
And the effect lasted for like 10 minutes as well. It lasted for about the same amount of time that they listened to the piece.
And then from that on, it kind of blew up into something that became a household name.
Okay.
And everyone...
Well, here's an experiment for everybody at home. I'm going to play a little bit of that piano sonata. Let's just listen to it and see if we feel smarter. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we got 30 seconds of that, which means we should be smarter for the next 30 seconds. So quickly, let's see if we can.
The answer is Idaho.
If we can test if we got smarter or not. Merwin, do you feel smarter?
I definitely feel smarter. I think that...
Give us an example of how smart you are.
Well, he's a genius, so that's not fair.
That's right.
I think that one of the things that happens when you're listening to something like this is
you're running out of time, by the way.
You're trying to think.
It's going to wear off.
Faster.
Yeah.
Come on. Oh, no.
It's gone.
Now he's dumb again. He's dumb again.
Do you remember that movie?
I didn't expect this to be this competitive.
You remember that movie about, I think the story was called Flowers for Algernon.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
It
Charlie.
was a book,
They made it into a movie called Charlie about the mentally challenged. He was a janitor or something like that, and they did an experiment on him. He became a world-famous genius, and then he lost it again. We sort of just witnessed a miniature version of that right here in the studio.
Except I think it was active, like, sabotage as opposed to an...
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
Well, I think...
Obviously, he can't remember. I mean,
this is how this podcast always works.
His speech is getting a little slurred now, and
That's just the
your
Jack
eyes
Daniels.
are kind of glazing over. We need more Mozart.
Well, when you're listening to the piece,
Drink
I
it.
think it's a little bit different because...
Liquid Mozart. Perfect.
Mozart.
I'm so sorry, Merwin. No, he does not.
wait, I don't want to have liquid Mozart. I'm sorry. Like,
We
that
can
just does
market
not
it
sound
and
appetizing.
sell it at
Also known
concerts.
as like...
No, it's like an elixir. It's like a Sweeney
It's
Todd's
like- it's
magical
like a
elixir.
marinade?
It's Also known as chocolate schnapps. Right? Do you need to hear the Mozart again, or can you remember what you wanted to say?
I'm going to try to fight through the noise, the slug.
We need to hear it again. Background music.
Oh,
Okay, here we
Oh.
go.
This is all we needed was a little beat.
Well,
All
I
right.
think that's actually a really good segue into what I was going to talk about, because when you're listening to the Mozart Sonata, what you're trying to do is to organize this into actual beat patterns. And you think, okay, where does the beat fall? Okay, here's where the beat falls. Oh, wait, it's 3 beats per measure. It's a triple meter, and it's not an automatic compared to listening to other forms of music where the beat pattern is very obviously pointed out to you. by
Okay,
a
I
drum
think I've
set.
invented something new, and after listening to Merwin speak for 30 seconds, I feel much stupider. And we're going to call it the Merwin Effect.
This is why I'm a famous teacher.
There's the Mozart Effect, and there's the Merwin Effect. And you can't have one without the other.
I'll say, though, I've always taken issue with this study because of the way it was designed. It's not purely a Mozart effect. It's an effect of...
It's a music effect.
Yeah, it's a music effect, and it's a classical music effect versus relaxation music, which is usually a lot less linear, more atmospheric, and silence, which is an absence of music. So I agree that there's something about classical music that has organization and order to it. For apologies, because I know that someone's going to call in and explain all the things that don't fall in that classification.
If they do, I'll send them your way.
Thank you. But it could just as easily have been a Bach effect or a Brahms effect.
Yeah.
And indeed, when they were coming out with these Mozart Effect CDs, they were all marketed with that brand name on it. It wasn't very long after that Philip started having Debussy for daydreaming and Brahms for bedtime. All of these ways to inject a little bit of classical music into your life.
Brahms
See
for
how
bedtime.
easy it is to not interrupt somebody else.
That's it. Did you
Oh,
ever...
were you trying to not interrupt us, Mo? Or-
Yeah.
I thought you left the room, honestly.
That's called the Vassar Effect, right there.
when you feel like people are leaving the room while you're speaking.
Oh, ouch.
Hey, Merwin, I think we're going to have a long talk.
So, Felicia, if there were going to be an effect named after you, what would it be? Oh, the music stuff.
Oh, no.
Now who's
me
on the
pull it
hot
back
seat?
up.
I
There we
stopped
go.
the music. No, I don't know.
There it is, the Felicia Effect. You have the power to stop music. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's a
Yeah.
mic
Yeah.
drop.
Well, I'm going back to the topic. And I think that the question is not the Mozart effect. They were trying to prove that music makes you smarter, right?
Yeah.
But
I've been doing it for years and it hasn't worked, I have to say.
and I don't think the people who did the study, claimed that Mozart made you smarter necessarily.
Right.
It was just
Well, it was what it was. They just, they did better on some tests for the 10 minutes or what have you. But then this was picked up. They started getting, like different news shows and organizations that wanted to do a story on them. But of course, they had an agenda. They were going to blow this thing up, and they were going to make. And then the marketing people got a hold of it, and Baby Einstein, all the Mozart and Bach CDs, and all this stuff. The Mozart Effect became a cottage industry. And I think that happens to a lot of things in the world that we don't necessarily even think about. But in this case, it was a big boon to classical music. I mean, we have to say that, looking at it from a completely biased standpoint, it was great. It was great for us, right?
Well, I think it gave people a new utility for classical music at a time when audiences were probably starting to back away from it.
Yeah.
And, there was just a study released last week which showed that, we think of, or we speak about classical music as relaxation too much when we're talking about come to the symphony, relax with us, escape with us.
Yeah.
And I think Toledo Symphony is guilty of that just a little bit. I think we've taken a different attack, but many orchestras around the country are using that kind of communication to bring audiences in. It's not an IQ argument. It's a get away from your screen and listen to something beautiful. And I think we're constantly trying to repackage this industry. because we're afraid that it's going to lose relevance. But the music stands for itself.
I just want to say that everybody stayed in the room while Zach was talking. That was great. We negated the Vassar effect.
I'm
Wow.
sorry, I wasn't listening.
Oh my God.
And you know what the best part is? I deserve all of this.
Yeah. But this whole idea of classical music has to be marketed as relaxing. And you see it a lot on compilation CDs. They release albums, the most relaxing classical music in the world.
And there's another one, which is a follow-up to it, which is, and I am interrupting you, Brad.
That's okay.
Which is the ultimate most relaxing classical music album in the world. So
Yeah.
they just get more superlative with the title. And
They're like, how can we do better? I got it. Let's make it the most.
Ultimate.
You know about Elizabeth Taylor, her conjugations of the word best? There's like best, better, and bested. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. I don't think I made that up.
I think that's the Cresswell effect, an allusion to something that we didn't actually understand.
Yeah, and that may or may not be real.
Yes.
So this whole idea of relaxing music, I think you really hit on something, Zach, that we should address. In music programming and on the radio, there were studies done in the early 2000s where listeners said that the number one reason they listen to classical music on the radio is to relax, is to chill out. And all the record companies jumped on that, as we just said, with their most ultimate relaxing classical music in the world. Then they got onto, relaxing adagios.
Sure.
And it's all slow, boring music, basically. The slower, the more boring, the better.
What would it be if we said, instead of relaxation, passionate?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
different people
how
listen
would-
for different
yeah.
reasons.
I think one of the things that's scary is when you try to tell people what they're supposed to feel about a particular piece. And
Right.
I think when you market, something that is like hundreds of years of music with so many different composer intentions and try to brand it with a single adjective, that's extremely reductive. And then you end up at a dentist chair or on a massage table listening to what's purported to be a relaxing piece of music, and it's like the last movement of Beethoven's Seventh. And then if somebody's listening to that and trying to be relaxed, it's not going to work.
Well, but this is the folly of playlisting our culture, and it's now easier than ever to put together a playlist. 15 years ago, you had to make a mixed CD or mixed tape, but now you can just drag and drop tracks into a playlist that can orient on a theme, a performer, an era. But it's the way we think about music is it helps me study, it helps me wake up in the morning. It's the kind of music I want to listen to in the middle of the day. Every radio station, commercial or otherwise, has different time blocks that they try to fill with programming. One of the things I'll applaud you for is your shuffle.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most interesting things because they're always very different, Brad.
Yeah.
And always at least one new discovery.
Play three little tunes back to back, 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock every weekday afternoon here on FM 91. Just in case people were wondering what it was you were talking about. But I want to address one of the things you said, this idea of playlists and people creating their own playlists. That's great if you want to hear songs that are, and some internet radio stations do this, or services, they say you want more like this, more like that.
Right.
So you've got this sort of playlist that all sounds the same because it's something that you happen to like at that moment. That's fine. That's great. But when you're talking about classical music, you're talking about such a rich history, such a variation of types of music and kinds of music, such a huge selection to choose from that you're really missing out if you say, I want everything to sound like, Albinoni Adagio or Vivaldi Four Seasons, and you get a bunch of generic, which basically, I hate to say it, but it's true, it sounds like a lot of classical music radio these days. But think of, it's the same kind of algorithms that companies, streaming video companies use when they want to provide you with suggestions of what to watch next. You've got all of these different shows that you can watch. You turn on cable and you've got, 100 different channels. Well, in classical music, you turn on the classical music cable and you've got hundreds of thousands of choices because we're talking centuries of music. So it's one of the few, I think, media ventures that still requires somebody to sort of help take you on a tour, give you an idea of what's available. It really requires the human one-on-one touch, which is why I enjoy being in classical radio.
I had a client who will remain nameless. It was an orchestra before I came to Toledo Symphony. And they had gone so far as to take all of the pieces of music that they had performed and associate it with the attendance that it achieved. And they assumed that, if you correct for a lot of variables, that, there are probably 2 or 3 other things on the program that might be driving that attendance up or down. They would, over a systematic 20 or 30 year period, correct for that error and be able to say, if we program these pieces, we'll get larger audiences. So it sounds like a really smart idea. And if you're going to use that well, you're going to go in there and you're going to take the top 10 pieces and put that on your program next year, and you're going to get really good attendance, theoretically. But then you're going to feed the same data back into the database so that the year after that, it's going to come up with the same answer. Play the same 10 pieces.
Right.
And you'll not have the same attendance, theoretically. And that if you did that same programming for 10 years, you would probably not have any audience, right? So I get concerned that we think of classical music hits or top 100 way too much. And it's something that we try to caution ourselves from in programming, because it, in creating a program, it's like a little playlist. But Elaine and you, maybe it's your metaphor, talk about it as building a meal.
I'm talking to Merwin. Yeah.
Which I think is a much better way to think of it. And honestly, Brad, this might go into some of your programming decisions too.
Yeah. So here's a little anecdote which will segue us into the quiz of the day. In 2010, there was a huge study published that looked at all of these different studies that had to do with the Mozart effect, and they basically said the Mozart effect is not real, right? It's not real as people think it is real. And they called the paper that they published Mozart Effect Schmozart Effect. Literally. That's what they called the paper, okay? So I have a quiz, which I'm calling Prodigy Schmodigy, for us today.
Creative.
I'm going to read you little descriptions of various child prodigies. You tell me if they are a real person or if they are a fictional person, and if you can identify who they are, you get extra credit. I will identify 1 or 2 of these as we go along. You tell me if it's true or false. Let's start with this. Oh, first of all, well, I'm tempted to play the Mozart again, just so we can up our.
Yes.
Yeah, it really would help
Here's
our
what I'll do.
performance here, Brad.
Here, I'll put this in the background.
Performance enhancing music.
Here we go. There. I mean, that's Mozart. We know the Mozart effect doesn't work anyway, so here we go. This person became a famous pianist while still a child and toured Europe with their father. They were also an acclaimed composer at an early age. They've had a substantial number of books written and films made about their life.
And they have an effect named after them?
Nope. They were also idolized by their much more famous younger brother.
Nan Earl?
That's right.
Mozart's
Maria Anna Mozart, who
sister.
is the older sister, had to give up her career at age 18 because it was unseemly for a young lady to be a famous pianist and composer. Although we don't have any of her music, it has not survived. But we know about it, though. Okay. This person sang in the youth choir and mastered piano, guitar, and drums at an early age. He plays 15 different instruments and is a famous rap artist. We know him as Flavor Flav. Is that true or false?
That's so funny because I thought you were talking about Justin Bieber.
Canadians.
Just going back to Canadians. But, Justin Bieber, actually a
Guys,
very good...
50-50 chance
have-
here.
I think he plays a lot of instruments or something like
True
that.
or
right?
false?
So I'm going to go false.
False.
It's actually true. At least he says it's true. We don't know for sure, but that's what he
Fact
says.
check.
He has a wonder... It was one of Kimberly's favorite reality shows was Flavor
Yeah.
of Love.
Yeah.
I
used to
should
watch that
have
show.
known.
Okay, next one. This person earned a perfect score on the SAT at the age of 6, completed high school in 9 weeks at the age of 9, graduated from Princeton University in 1983 at age 10, and finished medical school 4 years later at age 14. They became the youngest licensed doctor in history.
Is this a TV
True
show?
or false?
Doogie Howser. I love it.
Right.
When you said a perfect score on the SAT, I said, I know where this is going.
Okay, so far you guys are doing pretty well. Here's
It's
the next
because
one.
of the music.
This prodigy was speaking at 7 months and solving math problems at 14 months.
Merwin.
Okay, you got it. No. They decided to become a vegetarian at the age of 2.
Oh, no, never mind.
They were lecturing on photosynthesis at the age of 5. They graduated
so
from high
cute.
school at 10, and they were first nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize at age 12. They've actually been nominated twice for the Nobel Peace Prize. Is this a real person or not?
It seems reasonable, but I don't know who it is.
It's a real person. Yay! His name is Gregory Smith, and he's become a motivational
Greg.
speaker.
Yeah,
Greg Smith. Right? Yeah. Okay. Well, fairly
Just think
common
about
name.
how many Greg Smiths there are.
Yeah.
There's actually a composer. Greg
Maybe.
Smith.
Well,
Yeah.
you know,
really?
maybe it's a compilation. Only one of them graduated high school at 10. The other one got.
This is
So
what
it
happens when you
evens
make
out.
playlists. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evens out all the Greg
Okay.
Smiths.
At age 5.5, this child prodigy was knocking off double-digit multiplication problems and blitz reading Dickens at an early age. Even though they were not appreciated by their deadbeat parents, they managed to eventually emancipate themselves. Is that a real person or a fictional prodigy? No answers?
Radio silence.
Nobody knows? Okay. That is that's a loud buzzer. That is a fictional person. That is Matilda. Have you ever read or seen Matilda? Matilda
Oh, yeah.
Wormwood?
I was not going there, but yes.
Chocolate
Okay.
cake.
Sleep baking. This person was a child prodigy with an IQ of 167. They were admitted into Harvard at the age of 16 and became the youngest ever assistant professor of mathematics at the University of California, Berkeley.
Was this?
I'll give you another hint. They also murdered 3 people.
I'm going to withdraw my earlier statement then.
True or false, first of all?
That sounds very true.
Yeah. It's an actual person. Any ideas as to who it was?
They.
Well,
he.
I said he,
Yeah.
and then I changed it to they. I tried to keep these gender neutral, but
Oh, okay.
I failed on that one. This was Ted Kaczynski. You know who
Oh,
that
wow.
was, right? The Unabomber.
I was
Wow.
totally going to guess that.
Yeah, definitely for that. Well, I know that's kind of morose, but that's okay.
Well, the music helps.
Yeah, right.
Yes, all of a sudden this felt very
Makes it nice and
Clockwork
bright.
Orange.
Yeah.
Clockwork Orange, yes.
Everything is better with Mozart.
That's right.
Right? Okay. This child was playing 4-hand piano arrangements alongside their father at age 5. They started composing at age 7, and by 11 had written a famous ballet. Their first opera came at age 21 and made them famous across Europe. Who would that be? This was also a prodigy whose name was Wolfgang. Any
Eric
clues?
Wolfgang Korngold?
That's right.
Wow.
This wealthy tech guru made his first circuit board at age 6, his first engine, a V8, at age 8, and he graduated summa cum laude from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology at age 17. Does that sound like a real person or a fake prodigy?
Seems totally reasonable. Yeah.
I feel like you can't make these up.
No, this is not a real person. Any ideas who it is?
Is this one of your alternate history people?
No. But Merwin, you should know, because...
I know all Canadians. Is this it?
No, you know all the Avengers.
Oh.
This is Tony Stark.
Ah.
Tony Stark.
Iron Man?
Iron Man, yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
when this person...
Wait, Iron Man's not real?
He's not even made out of iron. When this person was 8 months old, they smiled at their father's violin playing, but winced in pain whenever Dad hit the wrong note. They asked for a violin at age 3 and made their public debut at age 5, and while still a teenager, they played Carnegie Hall and became famous. Is this a real violinist? Merwin, pressure's on you. A real person or not?
This isn't the fiddler from the DC Comics universe, is it?
No, that's not the fiddler.
Oh, it seems wholly possible. I just don't know which. I mean,
It's a real
could be
person. Who
Any
would it
one of
be?
these. So Carnegie Hall is
Initials are J.H.
Yasha Heifetz.
Wow. Merwin, Zach beat you to the punch on that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's because I interrupted him.
Okay. This person, the child of a coal miner, was a dance prodigy at age 11. Their career was almost derailed, however, when they got into a fight at their audition for the Royal Ballet School. Despite that, they were accepted, and a few years later, they were the star of London's longest-running ballet, a version of Swan Lake. Does that sound like a real person or a non-real person?
This is from a movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what movie are you thinking? It's not a real person. It
Is this
is.
from Black Swan?
No, it's Billy Elliot. Billy Elliot.
So similar.
So similar.
So we're almost out of time, but before we go, let's quickly take the temperature around the room and tell us what's on your baby listening playlist, because you all have young children. They all listen to music. We'll start with you, Felicia. What's on your playlist?
Definitely the Mozart Sonata number 11 in A major.
Yeah. Is that the Turkish one, or has the...
The first movement, though, because it has a theme and variations, and it goes back from
you don't
major
like the
minor.
Turkish one, right?
Well, it was, we didn't know what this was for a long time because it was on our baby swing, and it took us probably a few months to figure it out, and then we found the sheet music and confirmed it.
Nice. Zach, what's on your baby playlist?
So for both of my girls, I played the Brahms Lullaby a lot when they were in utero, and then after they were born, simply because I really hope that someday down the road they associate great comfort and happiness with it from a subliminal level. That's all.
Yeah. Merwin.
It's funny because Kai and Matthias had very different playlists. Kai's my 6-year-old, and during a period of insomnia for both of us, I was singing a song about...
You needed some of that relaxing classical music.
Well, I was just singing I have always called him Pumpkin Boy, and so I was singing this song, like Who's My Darling Little Pumpkin Boy, and I pulled the first classical melody that I could out of my head, and it ended up being from the Emperor Quartet from Haydn. And that movement is like now like it used to be the Austrian national anthem, now it's the German national anthem, and it's like I imbued my poor kid with like Austro-German nationalism at a very young age.
How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
So far, so good.
How's it go again, that theme? Is it...
Who's my darling little pumpkin boy? You are cute and big and round.
You know what? It's weird, but it sounds like you're auto-tuned, and I know that you're not.
It's what a cold will do to you.
It's amazing.
And then
like
Matthias is a sucker for triple meter, and so it's always
Oh,
waltzes.
yeah, it's helpful.
It's always waltzes.
It's very helpful.
Everything from Blue Danube Waltz to Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings, couple Nutcracker things, Waltz of the Flowers, the Final Waltz, and he really, really likes Leroy Anderson's Waltzing Cat.
Do you dance around?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that about does it for this episode of Toledo Symphony Lab. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website. That's wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. And remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at toledosymphony.com. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Sue, and Felicia Canny for joining me today. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab here on FM 91.